Imagine inheriting an empire cemented with blood by a tyrant uncle, only to be remembered as the king with 1,000 wives and 260 children. How does a boy raised amid brutality become a ruler indulging in legendary luxury and excess? In this episode, we pierce the veil of Fath Ali Shah Qajar's life, a tale of trauma, opulence, and incompetence, to explore how his uncle's cruelty and his own extreme polygamy shaped a legacy both famed and flawed. From a traumatized nephew of a tyrant to a lavish father of a nation with hundreds of offspring, this is the psycho-historical journey into the mind of Fath Ali Shah. Fath Ali Shah Qajar, from 1769 to 1834, was the second ruler of Persia's Qājār dynasty. He matters because his long reign from 1797 to 1834 coincided with a turning point in Iranian history. A time of Western encroachment, internal reshuffling of power, and cultural transformation. Under his rule, Persia faced two disastrous wars with Imperial Russia, resulting in the loss of vast Caucasian territories via the treaties of Golistan in 1813 and Turkmenchai in 1828. These defeats not only redrew the map of Persia, but exposed the dynasty's weaknesses in modernization and military might. Internally, Fath Ali Shah's reign brought a measure of stability after decades of civil war, as he consolidated the new Qājār regime his uncle founded. He is also culturally significant, renowned for his patronage of the arts, and for the grandiose image he cultivated, such as immortalized in countless life-sized portraits of himself bedecked in jewels and brocade. Perhaps most notoriously, he is remembered for the sheer size of his harem and progeny, which swelled the ranks of Persia's elite, with hundreds of Qājār princes and princesses. Born in 1769 as Baba Khan Qājār, Fath Ali's early life was steeped in political upheaval and personal trauma. As a child of a Qājār prince, he was caught in the violent twilight of the preceding Zand dynasty and the rise of Qājār power. At age 5, he was taken hostage to the court of rival ruler Karim Khan Zand, effectively as a pawn to secure his father's loyalty. There, young Baba Khan joined his elder uncle, Āghā Moḥammad Khan Qājār, who had himself been held under the Zand's watch. This uncle, a formidable figure who later became the founder of the Qājār dynasty, had survived his own traumatic youth, as he was castrated as a boy by enemies, and was known for merciless brutality and pursuit of power. Growing up under Āghā Moḥammad Khan's wing meant that Baba Khan's formative years were shadowed by violence and fear. He witnessed internecine feuds among Qājār factions and the violent death of his own father, who was killed in a tribal conflict when Baba Khan was about 8. By his teens, he was riding with his uncle in military campaigns during the chaotic scramble for Iran after Karim Khan's death. Under Āghā Moḥammad's mentorship, if it can be called that, Baba Khan was groomed as his successor and learned the harsh lessons of survival in a ruthless arena. The uncle's approach to governance was raw terror. Āghā Moḥammad Khan's capture of Kerman in 1794 stands as an exemplar of brutality. He reportedly ordered nearly 2,000 women and children sold into slavery, and had all adult males of the city either executed or blinded. Such acts seared a lasting impression on all who knew him, including his nephew. In fact, Āghā Moḥammad believed he had raised a royal palace and cemented it with blood for his heir. A grim boast acknowledging that Fath Ali's inheritance, the Persian throne, was built on atrocities. One can only imagine the psychological impact on Baba Khan of witnessing, or at least hearing detailed accounts of, these events. By the time Āghā Moḥammad Khan was assassinated in 1797, the 28-year-old Baba Khan had seen relatives murdered and rivals tortured. He had even been briefly taken prisoner during a family feud, experiencing the constant peril that came with power. It's telling that even years later, as Shah, Fath Ali would recall his uncle's cruelty with a mix of regret and understanding. In one conversation, upon hearing tales of the Zand prince Lutf Ali Khan, whom Āghā Moḥammad had tortured to death, Fath Ali Shah admitted that while he also would have felt compelled to eliminate a dangerous rival for security's sake, his death should not have been such as my uncle made him suffer. This frank reflection shows the dual legacy Āghā Moḥammad left his nephew, an acceptance that violence was sometimes necessary, coupled with a lingering horror at the extremes of barbarity. Fath Ali Shah assumed the throne in 1797, taking the regal name we know, and his birth name Baba Khan was set aside. In the first decade of his reign, He worked to stabilize the fragile unity his uncle had forged through fear. He faced immediate revolts and pretenders across Iran's provinces. History records that he could be ruthless when needed. Early in his rule, he ordered the slow execution of a Qājār prince who had rebelled, having the man entombed alive in bricks, and he did not shy from blinding or killing captured challengers. Yet Fath Ali's style also diverged from his uncle's in important ways. Rather than a reign of unrelenting terror, he increasingly relied on patronage and family ties to secure loyalty. The new Shah doled out provinces to his sons and tribal allies, marrying princesses into influential families and taking wives from rival clans as a form of alliance building. This approach, empire by marriage, became a hallmark of his rule. It certainly expanded his harem, and as a side effect, his family tree at an astonishing rate. It also helped avoid some wars, as the political marriage served as an effective alternative to exhaustive conflicts, binding chieftains to him as in-laws rather than foes. During the fame period of his life, roughly the height of his reign, Fath Ali Shah cultivated an image of imperial majesty and prosperity. He moved the capital to Tehran and embellished it with palaces, audience halls, and lush gardens. European envoys to his court were struck by his opulence and ceremony. He would appear on the peacock throne laden with enormous diamonds and pearls, and demanded foreign ambassadors show respect in extravagant ways. For example, insisting the British king's letter be placed at the edge of his throne during an audience, with rich gifts laid at his feet. One British witness described the Shah as having real power but no permanence, noting Fath Ali's awareness that his absolute authority was brittle in the long run. The Shah himself quipped that while European kings enjoyed stable, lawful rule without much personal enjoyment, his power was absolute and indulgent but lacked stability. This almost self-ironic comment reveals an astute mind behind the pomp, and that was Fath Ali Shah knew the dilemma of his monarchy, that it was splendid yet precarious. Fath Ali's reign was not marked by great military glory, in fact, quite the opposite on the international stage. He is often regarded as an incompetent military leader, or at least an unlucky one, because of the catastrophic wars against Russia. Twice, in 1804 to 1813 and 1826 to 1828, Qājār armies led by the Shah's son, Crown Prince Abbas Mirza, fought the Russians in the Caucasus and were decisively defeated. The resulting peace treaties forced Persia to cede prized territories Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and more. These losses were humiliating and economically damaging, exposing how far Persia had fallen behind in modern warfare. It's worth noting, however, that Abbas Mirza was actually a relatively dynamic modernizer who tried to reform the army along European lines, but he lacked full support and resources. Fath Ali Shah's priorities arguably lay elsewhere. He was more comfortable enjoying court life in Tehran and Isfahan than personally leading troops into battle. Indeed, as Western observers noted, the Shah seemed at home with his daily habits: cheerful mood, love for jewels and for the chase, his indulgences and moments of rage, but grew frustrated with the tedium of statecraft and squabbles among his ministers. This paints a picture of a ruler who loved the trappings of power, hunting parties, feasts, artistic patronage, but had limited interest or aptitude in the hard work of governance and military strategy, especially as he aged. We cannot discuss Fath Ali Shah's fame without highlighting what made him legendary in popular memory, and that is his harem and children. By every account, the Shah was exceptionally polygamous, even by the standards of monarchs. He maintained a massive royal harem, Andarun in Persian term, with hundreds of wives and concubines. Some sources say between 300 and 1,000 wives in total, as well as an army of eunuchs and servants to manage this inner court. Contemporary chronicles marveled that from the creation of Adam, no man was known to have had so many offspring as Fath Ali Shah. Modern historians estimate he fathered at least 260 children during 47 years of adult life. About 60 sons and 55 daughters survived him, while many other offspring died in infancy. This staggering fertility earned him a place in the record books as one of the most procreant men on record, essentially populating the aristocracy of Iran with Qājār princes. One British visitor wryly noted that many of his wives are delivered on the same night, an image that underscores just how active the Shah's marital life was. Fath Ali Shah became famous among Persians for three things, and that was his exceptionally long beard, his wasp-like waist, and his progeny. Indeed, his portraits always highlight a prodigious jeweled beard flowing past a narrow corseted waist. symbols of virility and royal glory, but it was his enormous family that truly set him apart. Politically, these marriages were not mere lust or vanity, many were strategic unions. He married daughters of Qājār clan chiefs and provincial governors to bind them to him, and in turn married off dozens of his own daughters to powerful men to secure their loyalty. In a sense, he turned the realm into one big family business. This strategy did stabilize Qājār rule in the short term, but it had side effects. By the end of his reign, the royal family itself numbered around 1,000 individuals and kept ballooning. The cost of pensions and estates for these princes became a major strain on the state treasury. In other words, Fath Ali Shah's prolific fatherhood solved some political problems while creating an expensive bloated court that later rulers had to contend with. By the 1820s, the shine of Fath Ali's long reign had worn thin. The second defeat by Russia in 1828 was a crushing blow that brought to the surface the fundamental flaws of his government. The once confident Shah, now in his 50s and 60s, began to withdraw from day-to-day affairs. Historians note that after losing his beloved son and capable heir Abbas Mirza in 1833, the Shah became demoralized and increasingly disengaged. Personal tragedies. Several favorite sons died young, and the loss of trusted longtime ministers left him isolated and grieving. European witnesses in these later years observed a change in his image from a jovial, curious monarch to a more irritable and weary figure. He still held splendid ceremonies, but his authority was undermined by an empty treasury and restive provinces. Rebellions flared in regions that sensed the weakening grip of the center. In his final year, Fath Ali faced a succession crisis, having to bypass several surviving sons in favor of his grandson due to infighting. He died in October 1834, leaving behind a kingdom in precarious condition and a sprawling royal lineage. His legacy is a study in contrasts. On one hand, he presided over a cultural renaissance in Qājār art and architecture. Tehran grew into a true capital on his watch, and the era's art, especially the flamboyant royal portraits, reflected Fath Ali's love of beauty and image. On the other hand, he left Iran militarily weakened and financially strained, setting the stage for a century of foreign interference. His myriad offspring ensured the Qājār dynasty's continuity. Dozens of grandsons would govern provinces or vie for power, but also entrenched nepotism and factionalism in Qājār politics. Perhaps most relevant to our analysis, Fath Ali Shah's personal journey from a fearful princeling under a cruel guardian to a self-indulgent patriarch raises intriguing questions about how childhood trauma, absolute power, and cultural norms intertwined in one man's psyche. That's it for this episode. The psychological analysis, including the behavioral patterns, possible DSM-5 criteria, and a differential diagnoses will be on next episode.